Out of nothing, the Creator made rock, water, fire, and wind. From these four substances, He created the physical world of sun, stars, moon, and earth. Then, He made the plant beings.
What we have to do is, we have to study nature. Nature is the greatest teacher if you take time and listen. Nature lives in harmony with itself. Each looks out for the other, each protects the other. There is no warring, there is no gossip, there is nothing. They live in harmony and side by side. They're not fighting over that piece of land that they grow from. That is organic, as designed by our Creator.
There are four kinds of plant beings: flowers, grasses, trees, and vegetables. To each, the Creator gave a spirit of life, growth, healing, and beauty. Each He placed where it would be most beneficial, and lent to earth the greatest beauty, harmony, and order.
It's a belief that everything has life and everything has spirit. We pray to these plant spirits. These spirits were put here on this earth to look after all living things. They are at work in the universe here. Everything here has a purpose in its natural state, and it's that purpose that we have to try to emulate within that relationship with these plants.
Our people believe all life is connected. You certainly hear from the mainstream society, it's good to talk to your plants. And that's taken quite seriously with the First Nations.
After plants, the Creator made animal beings, conferring on each special powers. Last, He made man, the keepers of the earth.
You know, we'll take care of you. We'll deal with your enemies, you know, the other weeds and the other competitors. And in turn, you can feed us and take care of us at some point. Our people were food secure at one time before the treaties. We put ourselves under the care of the Crown and have been living in poverty and hunger since. So our people know that they can be food secure and food sovereign, and we can take care of ourselves.
Though man was last in order of creation, he was given the greatest gift, the power to dream.
Muskerry Organic Workers Co-op was set up 4 years ago to facilitate their learning the skills of gardening. They grew 7 acres of potatoes this year and 3 acres of vegetables, all certified organic. Well, our philosophy is caring for the earth. The potatoes that are not grown organically are sprayed about 6 times for bugs and for weeds. And everything that gets into these leaves gets into the potato, and then we eat them. There's been a marked increase in the last 30, 40, 50 years in cancers in this community, and they're blaming the pesticides.
Well, I remember when we first farmed, we didn't use pesticides. We had no chemicals. My grandfather started in 1895, growing a small, about 2 acres of wheat, corn, squash, and other plants that they used for food, you know. And my grandfather was over 100 years old when he passed away in 1954. They say he's about 106 or around there, 105.
The Creator then made the great laws of nature for the well-being and harmony of all things and all creatures.
Well, Grandpa always had good produce. Because it's like this, he said, everything has life. And everything, interacted with one another. Everything required each other. Plants will actually coordinate with the air, the wind, and the insects and the birds. And everything had an association. Every plant has a spirit, every plant species, like this grass here. There's millions and millions of grass, but it only has one spirit that looks after it. The spirit of the plant will talk to you. And that's why he sat in his garden. You have to get it to like you as a fellow being. Like, you're there because they're there. And they're there because you're there. And so that relationship begins to expound into a relationship of love and kindness. You be good to your plants, and they'll give you the return. They'll give you love. But when we spray the land, we kill everything in that. Insects, living things. And that is very destructive.
People mostly get their food now from the supermarkets, and they believe that they're getting good food, and that it'll always be there. And the future doesn't bode well for that, or not at a low price anyway. The food's going to be out of reach of most people. So we see value in people learning how to grow their own food. We would be farming all of Muscatine ourselves in small, sustainable farms, or organically at some point. And feeding ourselves and feeding people locally, 100-mile diet.
We need to be the caretakers of that, because that's who we are. The caretakers of the land. Not to destroy it, not to pollute it, but live in harmony with us. Because this is where our strength, our knowledge, and our wisdom, our voice, our way of life comes from.
Well, Grandpa, he had this theory. The spirit of the plant wants to be praised. And so you talk to the spirit of the plant. It will then appreciate and give you much more sustenance, It's all about sustenance. Sustaining the interaction of that whole world in which he relied on in order for him to make a good living.
Well, my job as a gardener is to develop this relationship with the plant, to see the plant as equal to me, to bring ourselves up to that level. It's an approach where we make an agreement with the plant. We'll nourish you, we'll bring you up, we'll take total care of you so that you'll grow up to be healthy and strong. And in turn, his part of the agreement is to give us life. How we observe that original agreement is through ceremony. We have corn ceremonies, we have potato ceremonies, we have ceremonies with virtually every plant that we grow for food. Many of the vegetables we eat today, like potatoes and corn, beans, squash, to name a few, these vegetables were first developed by Indigenous Americans thousands of years ago. And we're reclaiming that heritage. The overall vision is our determination to reclaim a long, rich heritage of indigenous agriculture that goes back to antiquity.
We have our Three Sisters plantings over there. Those are quite interesting. Their traditional way of planting, you make a hill, kind of like a volcano crater. You put your corn and your beans. You put those in the middle, and then you got your squash on the outside, and their roots interconnect, intertwine, and they support each other. Like the beans will climb right up the corn stalk.
All the other vegetables and that have chemicals in it, and I think that's what's hurting people. It's what's getting them sick. It's because the chemicals that are going into their body, so I think everybody should do it this way.
The toughest part of this job, most complaints I hear about, is the bending. Yeah, the back.
The work is hard, a lot of thistle, and there's like a lot of weed, and we keep getting canola that blows in. It's actually pretty fulfilling when you watch your plants and see them grow and actually get to taste them.
I was on welfare for maybe a month, and then I seen the advertisement, so yeah, I applied right away. I think it's so important for people to be working. That has a lot to do with spirit.
Well, we're taking people in the program that have generally not been in the workforce ever in their life, or very little, or had a very poor experience in the workforce. These people have been on welfare. They're learning job skills, learning life skills, and the capacity of the co-op is being developed.
So maybe they can plant another 10 more acres next year and put 20 workers in the field.
We have over 20,000 acres in Muscatine, and this co-op has a quarter section here, 160 cultivated acres, and another 350 acres across the road available. That's certified organic as well. And they just haven't got the means to, the financial means to farm it right now. These projects should have the potential of creating full employment for First Nations. It costs $7 billion a year or more now for First Nations in Canada being idle, you know, in health costs and school costs and jail costs, justice costs, the welfare and everything else. You know, a 100-acre field at 40,000 pounds an acre at $1 a pound is about $4 million. That's not outside of the realm of possibilities for each reserve, growing potatoes and other vegetables as well. Growing the food, getting everybody off of welfare, and feeding the rest of Canada.
At one time in our community here in Muscadet, almost every family had a garden. There were gardens all around. We all farmed organically, you know, and the gardens grew great. You know, the tomatoes tasted great. Everything tasted great and everything grew well.
Well, Grandpa, he didn't grow potatoes in a row. He mounded mounds. And in between the mounds, he would then put another batch of onions this way, or he'd put carrots this way. It was a wonderful mixed-up garden, but it was a good garden.
And there were also mixed farms: goats, sheep, chickens, cattle, grain farming. This community was full of small farms.
We would study his produce, and there were some birds that would come and peck away at the growth, you know, and so he would try to find a sparrowhawk, you know, and somehow bring it over to his place. I don't know how he did that, but he was able to do that. And there were certain kind of ants that he really looked at with great respect. They will kill some of the major insects, you know, that will eat the leaves and that will eat the produce. And he'd take these ants and transplant them there in the garden. That old man had that idea way back in 1940s. We knew that if we would learn how to associate the way that plants and insects and everything else associate and live together, we would be far better off for it. He was a funny old man, but a very, I think, traditional science, you know? He was scientific.
Our farms just disappeared. our small farms, gave way to bigger corporate farming, and then chemical farming.
The co-op learned fairly quickly that they would not be able to borrow, being on the reserve. The Bank Act specifically says a First Nation person can't borrow, and this is guaranteed by the Band or Indian Affairs when they're on the reserve. So they have to find a way of financing all operations from outside sources or from projected sales. Agriculture is subsidized on this continent, and where it's not subsidized, it just doesn't happen. So I fear for these projects once the funding runs out, the subsidies, if you will. If the government of Canada doesn't start putting them on the same footing, the same sort of subsidies that they're giving other farmers. I think they've been talking with the Muskeg Lake people.
Oh, really?
About passing on the gift of seed potatoes.
We're really pleased to be able to partner with Muscadet. Heifer has provided about $50,000 over those 2 years, and they're just doing amazing things. Really, really pleased with what has been happening here.
Oh yeah, we have compost in ours. Ours might be bigger.
We have the capabilities. We have all the resources. We have this land, all this beautiful land. We have some of the most fertile land in North America, right here. We have the knowledge, the skills of farming.
They're just getting ready for the fall.
Our elders are still here, many of them today, to teach us.
Just take those little ones too. We use them for soup.
So there's no reason why we can't totally go back to reestablishing an agricultural way of life.
I got dirt in my boots.
It's about a mile, I think about a mile down this way. And, we're going to the potato gardens.
Part of our mandate as Muscadet Organic Growers Co-op is to share our garden bounties with our community. So we're giving potatoes out to our elders. We're also giving potatoes out and vegetables to the school lunch program. We're sharing our experience and our knowledge in gardening with other First Nations like Flying Dust and Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation. In a sense, passing on our gift that was given to us by our ancestors.
You see how big they are?
No, I didn't.
Look how big these are, man. They're like
Wow.
half a foot long.
Cool.
We're reaching out to other communities to form partnerships because we need partners to work with us to help us grow our food, market our food, transport our food, and so on.
I didn't even wipe off the dirt once.
Another way to double your yield is to put more plant nutrients. And there's certain things that you can put on that are certified for organic. They sell fertilizer made out of alfalfa pellets, for instance. The partnership with Peter Ballantyne, or the collaboration with Peter Ballantyne, it means they're going to have access to dried fish bones and parts. And they're going to dry them and grind them up and
For the compost.
for fertilizer.
That's good.
We're just entering the organic food industry. And it is one of the fastest growing industries in North America, in the Americas, in the world.
I'm getting a lot of inquiries from First Nations across Western Canada about what's happening here and how can we do the same? How can we work on our own food sovereignty and our own food security in our First Nation?
Our workers are being trained how to drive tractors, how to change oil, how to weed the gardens, how to identify and recognize every type of weed and pest.
It's always good to learn, and I'm sure in the future I'll be teaching my children, and hopefully they'll be feeding their family.
Carrots.
They have a weird taste. They look like potatoes, but...
Oh, well, that's why you don't like them, because you think they're potatoes. I love them. Mashed turnips and carrots.
I really look forward to being able to bring this back to our community and share all of this knowledge with our people and feed our people and sustain ourselves.
Gaining that independence and just people in the community learning new things and knowing that you can get out there and do it yourself. You don't have to depend on anybody to do it for you.
But it's knowledge that we already have.
We have to understand that teaching and then apply it in our communities, from one community to the other. And then that will create unity and a voice for one people.
This is a journey of discovery back into our past, and we're bringing those traditions and practices up to the present to replenish ourselves, to re-energize ourselves, to revitalize our communities so we can be healthy again.
And so, by following the great laws of nature, all beings can live in harmony with each other and be one with nature.